Oh, Rick, can I just say something?
Of course.
No, I'm encountering that piece of philosophy which absolutely terrifies all rationalists. The famous statement of Hume, reason is the slave of the passions. Every time you say that to a rationalist, they freak.
But it is true. Reason is a slave of the passions. I read that somewhere recently. Who said that?
Hume.
David Hume.
David Hume, that's correct.
Oh,
The reason is a slave of the passions.
is it reason that brought you here or the passions?
Well,
Are you-
passions are the motive for everything.
Yeah.
The reason you either vote Democrat or Republican, for example, reason, well, they say it's reason, but I doubt it.
Passion brought me here. Reason is sustaining me. That's it. Very simple, guys.
Well, reason's the tool of your motives.
That's right.
Yeah.
Famously, for Rick's benefit, Star Trek, a mock time. Poor old Spock. He keeps on rerouting the course of the Enterprise back home, and he doesn't even realise he's doing it.
By passions, do you mean the emotional affect? It is
Well-
faster. It does work faster than thinking.
Well, the worst one is you try and tell it to the rationalists, and they believe that they're in full control of their passions, and they're the most immensely proud people you know. They don't consider that pride is a passion.
Of course, pride is a passion, and you're never in control of your passion. That's why they're passions, particularly the emotional ones. I mean, I don't know. Those rationalists are not rational at all.
That's not even true. There's something called compassion, and there's something actually called the great compassion. And or even be able to generate that, which I'm not at the level of doing, but at least I understand it a little bit. It requires being in control of both the reason and the feelings. It's a different mode of using the body consciously.
Yes. This is what Hegel says as well, that to achieve Vernunft, which he identifies as the mature state of the mind of Homo sapiens, you have to pass through the earlier two stages and learn not to be mastered by either one of them. So he starts out with Begriff, which is very centered in experience and emotion and memories and so on. But you have to overcome, that's where your passions live, but you have to overcome that to develop Verstand, which is the intellectual rationalist side. But then he's agreeing with you, Gene. He says you have to overcome that too. The mistake a rationalist makes is they think that having achieved Verstand, they're done. But that just makes them a slave to the ideologies and logics and so on.
Not much about philosophy. I'm a little bit new to it, but I am a thinker, a deep thinker. But basically, I think he's the one who said, and I think David Bohm quoted him as saying this, the owl flies at midnight. And that would be kind of saying the same thing that you just said.
Yes, the owl of Minerva takes flight with the fall of night.
So it's between two dimensions. There is a place that we as creatures of nature with a higher intelligence can contrive and use our functioning in such a way that it's more balanced.
Yes.
Is the higher intelligence above the two, or is it sandwiched between the two in which you keep it in balance, which is quite different? If it's higher than the two, you're manipulating the two, okay? But if you're in between it, you're also manipulating the two, but you're keeping them in balance, the balance relationship, which is quite different than we're seeing it.
We need to discover that for ourselves. But basically, when it's connected to, it changes, the dimension changes when it's connected, interconnected with dance, or this is symbol for it, or agency.
Yes.
That would be the transformative affect, and it is a different dimension. of mental clarity.
Yeah, that's what Hegel says about that. Effectively what you're striving for is not a balance between the two, and you're not seeking a compromise between the two. You're not trying to be anywhere between the two. You're trying to harness them to each other, to critique each other. And so you're taking two separate things and turning them into a dynamic system.
Harness is my favorite word, but I don't know about harnessing them to each other. Harnessing one's functioning in such a way that there's a different level, not different dimension of generative affect.
Yes, exactly, exactly. We in this seminar we borrowed a term from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, and the term is palintropy. In the Greek, it's palantropos, and it means a bending back. And so he says people don't understand how that which disagrees with itself can harmonize with itself. He says there's a harmony in the bending back, as in the case of the bow and the lyre. So you can take things that are in conflict and you can harness them to each other to create a dynamic system capable of doing work, like a bow, bow and arrow.
Yes, but I still have the question. In other words, if you take the dance, is the higher intelligence within the choreographer who tells you and keep it in balance in that way? Or is it that you had just some very, very smart dancers that relays it tactically in the relationship, the situation at hand, which is quite different? Because sometimes when you have a choreography, there could be a foul up and then you go on this detour. But if the tactical relationship of the dancers are each individually smart, they are readjusting to each other in the relationship rather than a hierarchy.
Well, dance is a symbol for spontaneity, which is basically mental clarity. It doesn't mean a person, I don't know this because I'm not at that level, though I'm pretty old. I hope I approach it soon. But I think that the question that you're asking, I think, is would one still use mental tools? And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, but is the mental tool distributed or is it a hierarchical structure?
It's called, well, I'm a middle way school Buddhist, and that's not Zen Buddhism or Hinayana. It's the school of the Dalai Lama. They call that Buddhahood.
Yeah,
that's just a symbol for the mental clarity where a person struggling. It's hard to figure things out because for reasons I can't go into right now. It would be too complex, but it's hard to figure every last thing out. Sometimes you just have to put everything that you already have figured out together and then just take a step. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's the mental clarity has to be there, or the step could be just in the same. It's Jesus. I'm an atheist. I'm a hardcore atheist, but God means different things to different people. But an interesting saying that so-called Jesus said is, "Do not put new wine into an old bottle." And most people, if you study that, if you go online and study it, or even think what you think it means, literally everyone interprets that as meaning, and I think it does on one level mean, do not put the new concepts or the new teaching into the old framework. But those sayings had different dimensions. So I've been interested in that for the last couple of months. People have, I guess you people don't know me, but a lot of people may have heard me talk about it a lot in the last 2 months. But then you have to ask yourself the question, he didn't say simple things like that. He maybe said it on one dimension, but what is new wine and what could be the new bottle? It's just so interesting. And at first, when I first heard it, I hadn't researched what they used animal skin bottles in those days, but I didn't know that. And I was thinking of the bottle as glass. Luckily for me, because that opens a different dimension too of energies and how they might work. But actually, originally, the bottle was made of animal skin, and then it got dry, after you used a lot and cracking, and then the new wine was fermenting. But I think that there's a deeper meaning, but you can't tell other people even if you found out, because we need to work this material through on some level for ourselves, or else it will just be, because it means different things to different people.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm talking so much. I didn't know you guys are so receptive.
No, you're talking right on the subjects that are exactly what our seminar is about. So there's a reason why we're so receptive. This is the material we're wrestling with. You know, when you talked about putting new wine in an old bottle, we're in chapter 6 now. We just got there, but the previous chapter was called New Wine in Old Wineskins. Literally, that metaphor was the structure of the previous chapter. So, you know, you and we are really in sync so far this morning.